Pointers, good morning. Double B, good morning, folks. How you doing, Double B? Hope you're doing great. Where do I sats? Whoops, I missed it. It bumped. Good morning, team. Let's get this coin. Indeed, Ben. Where do I sats? Boma Tattoos, good morning, Bitcoiners. Indeed. Huddle T, Washington, good to see you. Good morning. Joseph, good morning. Let's have a serving of those lab-grown blueberries with our great day to do some Bitcoin and have Nolan do Moscow time. Yeah, we're gonna fix the timing. I rewatched yesterday's with the notes. It does, Moscow time doesn't need notes, right? It doesn't work. So we're not gonna be doing the Moscow time with notes anymore. It screwed up the timing, right? I can't deny people their Moscow time fix. A sunny hello from South Florida, where we were. We are always happy to see the sunrise and the Bitcoin price. Indeed, indeed. Good morning, Habib. Good morning, Capenta. Happy hurricane. Yeah, another one in the East Coast. Huh? Thumbnail is fire. Thanks, Jared. Yeah, we're here for Russell Brand today, right? We're here for Russell Brand. It was actually going to be Satoshi. The reason I got the Japanese motif in there is it was going to be Satoshi Nakamoto Vampire Hunter, and I said I'm gonna go with Russell Brand today. I think he can look good. There was an image that was produced that made Satoshi, and it reminded me of Russell Brand. That's how I got to it. So it's in one of the outtakes, right? One of the outtakes. Happy Saturday, indeed, Robert. Robert, it is Saturday. It is Saturday. Let's do this, Nolan. Joe, we're ready. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Christine. Welcome, welcome. Glad you made it. All right, everyone. Let me just say, even though there's a bit of a hurricane on the Atlantic Ocean rushing towards the east coast of the United States, again, doesn't matter. The sun is up on that hurricane. The sun is up over the entire Atlantic Ocean. It's up over the entire eastern seaboard. It's running to the west coast of America, and I'm telling you, it's going to come up there soon too. Okay? Bitcoin, at the same time, is running around the entire world, right? It's not just running to the west coast, it's already there. So the sun's up, Bitcoin's running. All that's left for us to do is have a coffee, talk about what's new. All right, let's get some Moscow time going. So I'm not sure if you knew this, but the Germans, they had that leader for a long time, Angela Merkel, right? Angela. So Angela had a bit of an issue because they built a statue for her, right? They built this beautiful statue. She was on a horse, right? Angela, right? Well, it turned out things didn't work out too well for the statue. Yeah, it turned out the statue collapsed. What? How? The statue of the German Chancellor Angela Merkel collapsed under its own weight. It was under its own weight, right? So if you want to have a look at it, is the one thing I did put in my images today. There's the no comment needed, right? No comment needed. Under the weight of her own abilities, we have this. Right? We've got this result. So it came down. So there you go. We got an Angela Merkel statue collapsed. Now the Atlantic is telling us, right, that I've had allergies in the past, right? There was a time in my life where I had a lot of allergies, right? I never really figured it out. I usually get a bit of a thing in the eyes and the nose, but I can't take antihistamine, so I've just never been taking any of the pills. Never took any of the medication. Makes me too drowsy. Don't like it. Don't like the experience. Can't sleep well. None of those things, right? But it turns out that the cold medications and the antihistamine pills that are out there, right? There was a bit of a formula change a few years ago. Did you know the formula change? Because they were using those pills to make crystal meth, right? Breaking Bad, that showed everyone how to make the cocktail. Well, they had to swap out the ingredients, and now there's a new one, right? So it's been a new one for years. They've been selling the product for years, right? Well, the FDA, this is the FDA, right? Super credible FDA. This is in the Atlantic. Why has a useless cold medication been allowed on shelves for years? It's not just you. Popular drugs for congestion don't work at all, and an FDA panel has confirmed it. So you just get the drowsiness, guys, right? If you want to be really drowsy and crash your car and not be capable of living a normal life or sleeping or waking up or anything, The good news is the medication doesn't even work. So there you go. This one's great. All right. This is The Atlantic again. The allure of a racist pseudoscience. All right. The pseudoscience of eugenics is making a comeback on the American right. Of course, the American right. I that's all I hear Trump going on about these days, and anyone who's on the right. That's it. It's just eugenics. That's the only subject that I ever hear about. I don't hear anything about corruption, about World War III, about a corrupt medical system, a corrupt banking system. I don't hear it. I think the number one concern is eugenics, right? It's making a comeback. I wonder if it's this reason, right? So Nancy Pelosi was on CNN talking about Kamala and Joe Biden and everything. And they were talking about, because she's going to run again too, right? So Nancy Pelosi isn't done, right? She's coming back 4 more years or 2 more years or whatever she gets. And in her interview with CNN, she told the whole world that she is more reptilian and cold-blooded, right? And then had a little laugh, right? It was just funny, just a little reptile, right? Just a little reptile. Paul Krugman, right, let us know. Inflation update, right? Paul Krugman, always sunny in Potemkin Village. Paul Krugman says, in the past, I've focused on a measure that excludes lagging shelter and used cars as well as food and energy. Just to note that if you look at it this way, it adds evidence that inflation is largely defeated. Oh, great. Just don't count food, shelter, energy. Inflation beaten. Thank you, Paul. You're great. This one's from another Mockingbird asset, Sean Penn. Sean Penn, we've noticed for a long time, somehow is always messaging for Hollywood, right? A lot of people have called him a Mockingbird asset. Sean Penn says Will Smith's slap made him want to melt his Oscars down to bullets to shoot at the Russians. Oh, yeah. Any way to slide it in there. Any way to just slide it in there. This one's great. This is from The Rabbit Hole 84. Trust in media has dropped across all political demographics, with the Democrats being the sole exclusion. Right? So they're more. They've actually gone up. They're more trusting of the media. It seems that there are 70% of them say, yeah, things are going great. We got a great media. Which is up by a couple percentage points. So good for them. Good for them. And it looks like they really started believing their own media once Trump got elected. It's been ever since Trump got elected that somehow they're more credible. So there you go. But we gotta pour one out. We gotta have another sip. This is not a sarcastic sip. This is a real sip. We have to, have a sip to the Toronto Star. This is the largest circulating newspaper in Canada. And I'm afraid to tell you that they're cutting 600 jobs and they're in bankruptcy protection. So the owner of the Toronto Star, seeking bankruptcy protection for the papers that it owns, cutting a bunch of jobs, but I think we're going to lose some Moscow time with them gone. So thank you, Toronto Star, for your contributions to Moscow time over the years. I think we're going to get less. I think we're just going to have to use the Associated Press ones that you're just going to republish anyway. But thanks for all the laughs, Toronto Star. You've been great. Poor Toronto Star. Poor Toronto Star. All right. So today's theme, Russell Brand, Vampire Hunter. What I wanted to say first was the Satoshi Nakamoto, Vampire Hunter, based on the best-selling book and hit book. If you haven't read it, it's actually great. Seth Graham Green, something like that. Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter. And the whole book presupposes that the entire Civil War had nothing to do with what you thought it was about, right? And what history has thought it about. What it actually was about was the slave business was really about food for the vampires. It was really like a food distribution thing, and slavery would guarantee the food source, which would make all the vampires move to America. A really great book. I totally recommend reading it because it allows you to keep your historic idea of what happened in the Civil War and then add the vampires to it in a consistent way. Obviously it's fake and fun, but he invented the mashup genre, right? With Pride and Prejudice, and zombies. So he did the first ever of these mashup books. So I'm a big fan, and I thought those were the movie was terrible. I mean, really bad, but the book was good. I don't usually say that. I'm not one of these people. Oh, the book was better. Usually, the movie's actually, I'm sorry, but Lord of the Rings movie is better than the books. The books are terrible. I love them, read them many times as a kid, but come on, Tolkien is not exactly a concise writer. A lot of wasted time, but I'm okay with that, right? I'm not anti. I just got a lot out of the movies as well, which I loved. They could have had, I would have rather a battle for Hobbiton at the end. I would have liked to have seen that. So there's a few things the movie could have got better, but sometimes, I'm not one of those people. The book was better. Sometimes the movie is much better, or the TV show or whatever, right? But in this case, the movie was no good. The book, amazing. And the reason I bring it up today is because Mike Benz, who we have been, I didn't even know about this guy before, but he's become a big hit on the Breakup here. He's the guy who's doing a lot of these Mockingbird investigations and citizen journalism, the kind of thing that's making the world go round these days. And he brought up the following: has anyone else put together that the three things Hunter Biden is in trouble for are the three things the CIA does best? Money laundering, illegal guns, drugs. And that made me think exactly about, putting myself back into that context of Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter. And as I said, you can have these historical perspectives that remain consistent, even if you imagined there was a fight between vampires and vampire hunters in the 1860s. And the consistency there, and the idea that the vampires win, right, to me makes it look like the things the CIA are good for are the very things that vampires in sucking the vitality out of a system would be good at, right? So money laundering, drugs, and guns, right? So in the case of the CIA, we've known their implications in the drug trade in America, for example, for a long time. We've understood for a long time the money laundering. And Kaneko the Great had an amazing, and Mike Benz as well, together shared a really amazing video from 1967, a CBS News special about the CIA's own money laundering capacity. Now, this was at a time, and what's striking about this is the ability for them to speak clearly about this problem, because this is only 3 years after, here on this show, we suggest the money laundering went into a new era with the assassination of JFK and the beginning of the Bank Secrecy Act, the beginning of the SWIFT system to have to put information payload within different international payments across borders in order for the banks to be able to be deputized to go after this stuff. So the 1967 CBS report was amazing in its detail, but what I noticed is the actual vitality with which the journalists were able to handle the subject. It's not something you would see today. It's not something that you would even come close to seeing today. You're used to seeing Joy Reid go on about how stupid racist people are the problem, and that's the whole story, right? So if you go back here, Mike Benz writes the following: people don't appreciate just how much money laundering is the stock and trade of the CIA. Look at the level of money laundering sophistication the CIA had already developed in 1967 through its webs of front groups, foundations, and shell corps. In this CBS explainer some 50 years ago, right? And Kaneko the Great says, in 1967, CBS News special about the CIA funneled money to charities to infiltrate American news, student, and labor organizations. However, it's worth noting, so he makes a joke about the 51 former intelligence officials. So the idea that the vitality of America was stripped through the CIA's stock and trade, right? The money laundering, it's why you end up seeing American cities in the condition they're in today. It's why you end up seeing the entire system degraded the way it is, right? People are simply unaware of what's going on in America. They continue to think the trans thing, the books on the shelves, the racism, right? Joe Biden is about to give a speech. You guys understand this, right? Joe Biden is prepping and pumping the speech that he's going to be giving in the next little while. I think it's Tuesday, but maybe I'm off. It's coming up. It's going to be about the threat to America. Oh, what's the threat? Guess what? It's going to be me. It's going to be white guys, right? I'm pretty sure it's going to be white guys. It's going to be Bitcoiners too, right? Bitcoiners are going to, he's not going to mention us by name, right? But it'll be the radical MAGA, blah, blah, blah. Anyone who doesn't want to get a vaccine, anyone who questions anything is going to become, from a public address from the president of the United States, the main problem that Americans have. Some people are saying he's going to say climate change. He's going to say, oh, climate change is a thing. But I think he would pump the speech by saying it's, a special speech on climate change. That's enough, right? So they're trying to pump this speech up. They're trying to say, oh, this is what's going to happen. I'm willing to bet a significant amount of Satoshis that the culprit, right, the threat is going to be white nationalists, the blah, 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 made up stuff, right? So the diversion, again, is going to be clear and obvious, and everyone's going to sort of see it. Everyone here is going to see it. Unfortunately, there's going to be enough people that it will just fit into their narrative bias. They're going to continue to see the world in this way. And they're going to continue to not pay attention to the stories that are important, right? The ones that are actually sucking the vitality from America, the money laundering, the drugs, and the guns, right? Now, I'm a big 2A guy, right? I'm not saying in this case that the guns are the culprit, but if you put guns and all these things together in one cocktail, you're going to get some trouble, right? You're going to get some trouble. So it's pretty easy to tell, right? And now it looks like that the people like Russell Brand, who are effective at talking about things like money laundering, like the drugs, and all the crazy things that are going on, Russell Brand, the kind of guy who's really good at this stuff, right, and is actually getting a lot of traction and is sort of right over the target, is about to get attacked by the media. So apparently there's this video coming out tonight about Russell Brand and the women, right? It's going to be, oh, he's a jerk, and then the women had all these troubles with him too. He said mean things. It might be true. It might be, right? I don't know everything about Russell Brand. But what I know is the timing looks a little suspicious, right? A little suspicious. And here's what Aviva Fry says about it. Trump's indictment showed us you don't even have to have a committed criminal act in order to be indicted. Enrique Tarrio's sentencing showed us you didn't even have to be present to be convicted. Douglas McKay's conviction showed us obvious satire can now be criminalized. All concrete evidence that anyone with a remotely checkered past will be an easy target. As Alex Jones said, it's the same play over and over again. You're just the latest target, and that's Rusty Rockets, right? So Alex Jones and everyone sort of predicting that Rusty Rockets would be, Russell Brand would be attacked. Jason Morgan says the following, which I think is great, right? Russell Brand seems like a guy who gets it. He quit drugs and booze, divorced a famous egomaniac, left Hollywood, married a yoga teacher, and now just tells the truth for a living on a podcast. Really likable guy, right? Now, I don't know what things he's done in his life, and I'm not going to say he's an innocent person. I bet he's got things that he doesn't want people to find out about, things that are embarrassing, and all that, right? But does it rise to the level of criminality? I don't think so. That's not what I see. It could be. Russell Brand is a pretty good-looking guy. I don't think he's out there. I don't think he's got to be rapey to get any action, right? Pretty sure in his peak popularity, when he was still flattering leftists and all these people, that, I'm pretty sure he didn't have to look hard for someone to go home with at the end of the day. But, could be. This stuff could be true. I don't know. What I do see, though, is exactly what Viva Fry is describing. I don't have to hallucinate anything to understand that people who are over the target are getting singled out and attacked. And it's a clear across the board, right? So anyone who's out there actually attacking the important subjects, those are the ones that are getting in trouble. And it's entirely predictable. If that's your model, it's entirely predictable that you'd see that Russell Brand would come under this scrutiny. Now, where does it go from here? I continue to think Russell Brand is going to be a large voice for Bitcoin in the next cycle. He sort of approached it in this past cycle. but backed off, right? At one point, he said, I'm going to do a bunch of videos on Bitcoin. And then he only did one, and then he kind of disappeared and on the Bitcoin subject, right? So I think he's been primed. I think he's going to get there this time. And I think he's going to be able to tie the whole room together, so to speak. But if you want to see just how poorly treated we are by the media and how much the media is the opposite of what we want it to be, it doesn't tell you what's new. It tells you it literally hides the news. It makes you ignore things. It brings up insane things like Russell Brand and what happened with a girl maybe 10 years ago or something like that, and tells you those stories instead of all these things that happen. And the Vigilant Fox has a list of news that the corporate media, the enemy of the people, hid from you this week or this month, right? So this is this month, right? This is this month. The corporate media is the enemy of the people. Here's 10 stories they never told you this month. These are the things that happened this month that they never even talked about, right? Fauci admits the COVID vaccines caused myocarditis. Ivermectin is safer than you think. RFK Jr. identifies the real shooter behind his father's death. Number 7, German study exposes the dangers of masks and CO2 rebreathing. Number 6, teachers are being decimated by aggressive metastatic cancers after vaccine mandates. Number 5, unvaccinated children are healthier according to studies they don't want you to see. By the way, I don't believe any studies, okay? So I'm not even saying that any of these studies are right and correct. All I'm saying is you didn't even hear about them in the mainstream news. You didn't even hear about it, right? So I don't believe any study. There's no study in the world I believe, unless I own the fucking lab and do the study myself, right? Other than that, none of them, right? Masks work, masks don't work, don't care. Vaccines work, don't care. Don't know, don't care, right? Don't give a shit. But the idea that studies are not being even shown and that only certain studies are being broadcast, to me, is the story, right? I don't care about the truth behind the studies. Recent wave of forest fires is not due to climate change, but something much more sinister. They arrested the guy in Canada, right? They found one in Canada. They're finding them everywhere, right? Greek guy got arrested, right? There wasn't one global warming fire in all of this mess. 3, excess mortality just got even worse, but don't look at the vaccine. Now, I'm not saying the vaccine isn't causing these things, by the way, right? So that's also not what I'm saying, right? I'm saying, and the excess mortality numbers are one of the only ones that I pay any attention to, not prescribing any reason to it. I don't know why the excess mortality is up, but it's still important, like the most important data point we can have when discussing this, because it's one that's kind of hard to fudge, right? It's just a straight number. So excess mortality is an important statistic and number that we should be tracking and should be paying attention to. This should be the only thing the mainstream media is talking about since COVID. The excess mortality thing is the cost of their entire project, right? In some sense. And it doesn't even mean it's less lie. I'm just going purely on logic here, right? So this has nothing to do with reality, nothing to do with what's actually happening, nothing to do about COVID, and in the sense that I know it's real or not. But if you imagined that COVID was going to kill a bunch of people, and then we had a bunch of more people than normal die, right? We should still, even if it's to prove the vaccine has a positive effect, you should still be paying attention to that number, right? So now, again, we don't know, and I don't care, right? So that's not what's happening here. What I mean is the excess mortality is basically the only benchmark they have to understand what's going on with the effects of the vaccine and what's going on with the after effects, right? So not just COVID. So the effects of the vaccine and the effects of COVID are in the excess mortality numbers. They don't even talk about them. It's the only number that matters. It's literally, I don't know what it means, but it's a number that matters, right? So not even talking about. Number 2, first ever published spike detox protocol details how you can get better after the COVID shots, right? So there is an actual detox system protocol in place, which looks sort of, a lot of the medical community says it works, right? And you need to do it. So I don't know anything about it, but people are talking about it. And finally, number 1, Viral RFK video gets censored by X after exposing what Pfizer doesn't want you to know. So on that one, I will say now I'm against the censoring on X, right? And that did happen. Looks like Linda X or whatever took down a RFK video talking about the VAERS database, right? So he was talking about the VAERS database. Now, where he's wrong, well, he's right. He says the VAERS database is the only system we have to measure vaccine effectiveness and whatever. So that's correct, right? But it doesn't mean it actually does measure anything. Anyone can. It's a review system. It's Yelp, right? VAERS is Yelp. It's that's it, right? It's like I had sickness after the thing, and it just catalogs all of that stuff. And because VAERS is in the news more, of course, the VAERS stuff is way higher than it's ever been, right? VAERS submissions, VAERS reviews, if you will, of each individual vaccine, because no person has taken a vaccine, no vaccine has been taken this ubiquitously through a population as the COVID ones were. So, look, I don't think RFK was right in a sense, or at least it was misleading in a sense, because VAERS isn't really credible, right? It's not designed to do that. It's just a receptacle for reviews. It's not actually like a way to measure the actual dangers of a vaccine, right? It's not that, right? It's not, there isn't some filter that says, this is a real one, or this isn't a real one, or this is a real after effect, or this was something else. None of that's happening. It's just Yelp reviews, right? Which is fine. It shouldn't be censored, right? And indeed, Pfizer doesn't look like it's very interested in any advertisements around the world record-breaking amounts of bad reviews the vaccine has got. That is true, right? No vaccines in the history of the world have gotten as many bad reviews as the ones that this VAERS Yelp system has produced. So there you go. We got this situation where the news is literally like a vampire, right? It does not allow you to understand the important, vital aspects of your society. It will simply tell you Russell Brand, rapey, that person racist-y, that person's into eugenics now, so they're also, racist, don't bother with them. And it goes on and on, right? So the capacity for the news media to actually create a world that's vibrant and healthy and vital is absolutely zero. It actually just looks like they're interested in what the CIA itself would rather they look at, not the guns, not the and when I say guns, right, I don't mean average Americans with guns. I mean the gun running around the world that's allowing for Ukraine to be so heavily armed, that's allowing businesses and all of these things. Did you see that the Americans have actually, and this is actually a cool thing, they've shipped over a 3D printing container to build weapons, right? So there's no manufacturing anything. They can just 3D print weapons parts in a shipping container, right? So these are there now. They've been giving them to them, and all the other weapons they'll need, right? So the ability for people who are talking about the things that are actually sucking the vitality out of the Western world, the planet, right? Whatever it is we're doing, that system is antithetical, doesn't want people talking about the degradation of those things that would actually make life energetic and better, and all of these things that Bitcoiners want to see, right? And that's why Bitcoiners have rejected mainstream media for so much longer than most people. We were able to get over the Gell-Mann amnesia effect, right? Everyone knows the Gell-Mann amnesia effect, the Murray-Gell-Mann amnesia effect, right? So, the Gell-Mann amnesia effect. My NordVPN dark monitors say that Swan was hacked and my personal data was compromised. Dang. Yeah, well, Ripple's involved in that project now, so yeah, careful. Yeah, Swan, I mean, didn't they just join? Aren't they creating a trust with Bitco now? Didn't that happen yesterday? That's probably a better way to custody the stuff, but that's just what I think. So the vitality of the system that doesn't allow you to talk about the things that are most vital for the health of your system is one that simply can't last, right? It's one where you end up with what you see in Canada now, right? The Canadian situation. And if everyone hasn't heard, right, Trudeau is actually going to he's blaming it on the grocery stores, right, and their huge profits. So he's going to try and stabilize food prices in Canada. And he says, let me be very clear. If their plan doesn't provide real relief, then we will take further action, and we are not ruling anything out, including tax measures. So they're going to tax these people. And so this is what it's starting to look like in Canada, right? This is just a narrative, right? Here's the tactic: introduce carbon taxes that increase the cost of farming, fuel, transportation, electricity, which in turn raises the cost of food. Print more money and hand it out to the population, which devalues the currency and further increases prices. Blame the farmers and grocers for being greedy. Demand farmers and grocers come up with a plan to curb the cost of food when no one can really exist without government lowering taxes and turning off the printing press. When farmers and grocers cannot provide a solution, nationalize the farming and grocery industries, thus putting the government in control of what we eat, who gets it, and how much. That's communism. That's the way to control a population. Obey or die. That's the scheme. So, you know, I don't think they're as like this guy. His name is Jason James BNN. Now, what he's saying here is they had this as a plan, right? I don't really see that. I see them stumbling ass backwards into all these mistakes without any understanding of the consequences. One of the things that you can tell about the mind that isn't aware, that hasn't learned about Bitcoin, that hasn't thought about, really the effects of things, right? So what I notice regularly is that the split in American politics, you can say left, right, you can say we're moving to green and orange. Green and orange to me is really just people who understand cost benefit and the ability to predict based on current circumstances. That doesn't seem to be an ability that people on the left regularly in America have, or Canada. They continue to be, and I believe them when they say I didn't know that was going to happen. I believe them. It sort of works that way all the time. You can see regularly the surprise and confusion when things don't go according to plan. I see it even in the workplace. Low awareness people will be like, well, I sent an email. It should be done. Like I expect the human who received the email to have acted on the email that I sent. Like that's normal, right? But not understanding that no human acts on a fucking email. None, right? You've got to appreciate human nature before you can make good predictions. And that's what the fiat system simply doesn't allow you to think about, right? It's a top-down system, and you were given an order in an email chain. Do it, right? That's the way it's supposed to work. That's the way it works on paper. Why didn't it work that way? So it's the inability to treat humans as they are and to treat humans as they wish them to be. And to me, that's really where the divide comes, because you get these guys, oh, we're going to do fuel, we're going to do carbon taxes, we're going to save the environment. Oh, whoops, now we got to pay more money. So here's some extra money here. We're going to print money, and then oh, that didn't work either. It's not because they have a plan. It's because they can't predict, right? They cannot predict. There's no ability to predict what's happening in the future and to put things together. Bitcoiners, of course, and that's to me, again, what makes Bitcoin so unique in the world. Satoshi accepts us all for who we are. It's a very Jesus-like thing, right? He doesn't expect us to be anything less than the greedy motherfuckers we were all born as. We're sinners, right? We're just straight up sinners. And one of the things that makes Bitcoin better is that we are free to be exactly that. But within that context of treating and accepting humans for who they are, right? Not this global warming scheme of everyone has to do a little better, right? Everyone has to become a more conscientious person and then the system will work. That's not what they say, right? Just be yourself and the system will take care of things. And so Swan Thing is old. Okay, good, Johnny. You had me worried for a second. I didn't want to talk about news if we got someone dealing with a major Bitcoin issue. So good to know, Johnny. So the ability to predict, and that's why we make predictions here all the time. That's why I've been making weird predictions from the start of the show, right? We've been making these ones. Remember, I made predictions last year around not much later into the autumn than now. It was about November when I started saying RFK was going to become a big deal, Vivek was going to become a big deal, right? So the ability to predict is important, because when you try to understand human nature, when you try to understand how how we're going to react to things, how things are going to affect us, you've got to predict. And by predicting, what you're actually doing is putting a stake in the ground about your worldview today. And if your prediction comes right, you can actually backtrack and see that your assessment of the circumstances when you made the prediction were accurate, right? If they aren't, which is regularly the case, you've got to adjust and see where you went wrong. But that's not really something that goes on in the fiat world, right? It's just do better, be better, blah blah blah. Humans are this, and we're either selfish or we're selfless, right? No, we're all selfish, right? Now we can calculate ways that in the long term are better for us, and they might look selfless, right? They might look selfless, but they're not. They're not. They're selfish, right? So the ability to predict is one of the most important advantages Bitcoiners have. So I don't think that what this guy's saying here, that it was like this devious Justin Trudeau plan. I don't think Justin Trudeau can see past today. I don't think he has the ability. I think he gets to thinking about tomorrow, and it's just hopes and dreams, right? There's nothing real. He's not actually saying this will happen or that will happen. So, but it's precisely because they've sort of stopped paying attention to what makes things healthy and vibrant and vital. And that's why folks like Russell Brand are attacked, because if you do indeed put light onto those things that are indicative of a healthy or unhealthy society, it's unpleasant for some people to see, right? So you can already see why people have an antipathy towards, or an antagonism towards Russell Brand, right? You get it, because it's not fun to find out you live in a dystopia. Not everyone likes that, right? They want to go on thinking about all the good things. But the combination of predicting and knowing what to talk about, choosing the actual important subjects that are vital for our society, is the whole game, right? And you can even see it. That's why this, Alex Jones was on Jack Posovic's show talking about the, so of course, you always got to pay attention to Alex Jones because of his predictions. He gets so much right. And that's why he's become such a huge lightning rod whenever he does make a prediction, right? And he's made another one now. He's saying that all these unmarked boosters that are being sent out are actually Trojan horses for waves of illnesses, right? Now, he's the only guy out there making this prediction, and most people are going to say he's probably right, right? He got the prediction that COVID was coming back, the scoop of a lifetime. A month ago, he said mask mandates are coming back. They're back in hospitals. Canada's trying to do all kinds of mask shit. I can already see the brainwashed people wearing masks more and more. I saw it first here. Remember, I said it, and someone in the comments, I don't see it yet every day. It wouldn't have been days later that you saw it. It's just the Quebecers and the Canadians are a little stupider, and they'll follow quicker. So you just see it here first, right? They're the least capable of predicting of all, right? So this stuff is happening, and you're seeing the effects of people who can predict, the people who can shine light on the important subjects. And that, to me, is what makes Russell Brand a vampire hunter. He's literally out there exposing the people who would keep you from seeing the vital things in the world, who would keep you from understanding the consequences of predictions, the consequences of actions, and these are the people not making predictions, right? So, even this other case, the Whitmer case. So this has been completely hidden yesterday from the media, right? You didn't hear this. They put it briefly on MSNBC and these things, but it turns out that, remember the Gretchen Whitmer, because everyone's talking about her now to be Joe Biden's running mate, right? So the 3 men accused of plotting to kidnap her were acquitted, right? Because everyone knows that they were mentally weak people who were entrapped by the FBI to do this, right? So any anyone following this could have predicted what was going to happen. That this, well, hard to predict in the sense that the only variable is the degree to which the legal system is corrupted. But the actual guilt or innocence was clear to everyone from the very start, right? This was not something that people thought was complicated or anything like that. So again, this would come as not a surprise to people who understand and can make predictions. This would come as a surprise to people who saw it, but they won't even see it, right? It'll just be hidden and it'll just go under the rug and no one will even understand. So that's basically how this stuff works. It's whether or not you keep it in darkness or you shine light on it. And the good news is Bitcoiners understand the things that are the moving parts, the active battlefield of World War III, right? It is a battle for hearts and minds. It is a battle for the psychological engine, the ability to perpetuate forward, which really is predicting a better world, which is why the idea of predictions is such a huge kind of cleavage for Bitcoiners and Fiat muddy mind people, is that they literally can't picture the future. Ask any one of the best things you can do to orange pill a Fiat person is just ask them to describe the future with the US dollar and what it looks like. They will be incapable, right? They'll start talking like it's some kind of Star Trek, or they'll just take something they've been told and try to replicate it, right? Now, I love Star Trek, but it's not exactly the way I think the future is going to go. I love it, right? I always love Star Trek, but it's just entertainment for today, right? It's not really the future. So just have them describe it to you, right? What does it look like? Whereas every Bitcoiner I know can describe what a future on the Bitcoin standard looks like, what a Bitcoin era would look like, what America and what the world would look like if everyone was in Bitcoin, right? It's very easy for us to do it, which is why it's easy for us and why it's a meme, right? Bitcoin fixes this. It's because it's easy to imagine this fixed, that fixed, because it's true. It's just true. Once you shine the light on it and you understand where the problems come from, that incentives and all of these things are really what matter, then you get it, right? And that's where we're at. And so Russell Brand, right? He's out there. I predict he's going to become a big Bitcoiner in the next cycle. That's why we're talking about him today. And it sucks that he's getting attacked for this, but he'll be better off in the end. And it should drive him into that way. So there you go. All right, let's see what we got for comments. I've got to do a podcast this morning. Tommy, need Russell at B24. No kidding. I've been trying real hard, man. I tried to get to him through the Rumble guys this year. I've been trying for a few years. I think it's going to come around this time. Less trees cut. Beef kidney has DAO. I didn't know that. Beef kidney has DAO, which is a natural antihistamine. Thanks, Capenta. I only get it for a couple of days. It's not a big deal. It's just when the real bloom up here begins. And it's just, I mean, you could see the pollen in Montreal coming off the mountain. Like it comes off looking like a wave of pollen, right? The spring in the Northeast is so fast. It's the fastest bloom on the planet, right? It is. It's the fastest bloom on planet Earth. And it's, there's a lot going on. So there you go. Less trees. The Toronto Star. Yeah. Thank you, Toronto Star. It's going to suck, have another sip to the Star. You did us great. Got us some really good Moscow time headlines. I appreciate it. But I really do hope you choke on your bankruptcy proceedings, and that would be fine with me. Vivek is looking better each day. Hardcore talking truth of actual political status. Just crashing. No kidding. Isn't he the best? Isn't he the best? If he wasn't around and RFK wasn't around, it would make the Trump thing really tough. Really tough. Because you'd be like, well, Trump, you're going to get killed. Like, it would just be a lot more tense. The idea here is like with Trump being there, it's like you've got use a sports analogy. It's like you've got a franchise player, right? In Trump. Trump, he is, he is the most effective communicator and persuader in the world, right? He's world class. But he's old, right? So, but you still seem to have. I use a sports analogy for it. You've got like a franchise player. You've got like a Michael Jordan on your team, right? And then all of a sudden, you're a good team. You don't get a good draft pick, right? You draft low, and then you got to hope one of these people work out, and then you get RFK, right? Sorry, and then you get Vivek, and it's like they got a bench player that's also a franchise player. So it's like we're in the playoffs, and even if our star gets hurt, we got an amazing backup, like an amazing backup, right? And one of the best. And then on the other flank, on the other side of it, right, there's another franchise player there, a guy RFK, who probably could do it as well. So the whole situation would be different if it wasn't for those two people. Those two people have really changed the entire calculus. It makes that conversation like, okay, if they kill Trump, right? And I've been saying it for a while. That's my prediction. My prediction is with all this alien shit, these are pen tests to find out how gullible people really are. And once the gullibility is at an appropriate level, bang, right? Gone. Now, I still believe that, but I'm not afraid of it. I would have been petrified of that if it wasn't for Vivek and RFK. I would have been much more afraid of that, right? I don't know about petrified, but it would have been more persistent. At this point, I love Donald Trump, but the idea that they would go after him, I think, would be the end of their lies. I don't think Elon or anyone else shuts their mouth, right? I think they have to kill everyone after that, which is possible. Which is possible. If you're reading the Cernovich stuff, if you're following the Bolshevik and Spanish thing, if you even look at what Joe Biden is doing whenever that speech comes out, what is that designed for? Is it for peace? Is he going to tar, a huge portion of the American population as domestic terrorists, which he's done many times. He's done it many times already, right? He knows the Charlottesville hoax is a hoax, but he says that's the reason he ran. Right? He says that's the reason he ran is Charlottesville hoax, which we know is a hoax. So the danger of them actually doing this to Trump is there. But the risk for us as Bitcoiners and as people who want to change America and as patriot revolutionary people, luckily we have a deep lineup. And the most dangerous scenario is within the realm of possibility. I just don't think it's going to happen. You see too much changing as it is, and again, you can't think of the CIA and these people as a monolith, right? There's just like in the Abraham Lincoln Vampire Hunter, there was a hidden war you can't see. That the Civil War had a separate vampire war behind it. We're dealing with the same situation right now, right? There is a separate war behind there, and not everyone is on the same side. So it's hard to tell who's on which side because you can't follow the money, right? So it's hard to tell. But we're close to it. So there you go. Russell Brand has a very engaging personality. Some Max Kaiser report in 2020 when he was in London. Just got married to Stacy. Yeah, wow. Yeah, love him. Yeah, we're gonna get him. Yeah, we're gonna get him. Yeah, overcoming hard drug addiction and becoming a fully human again. Has a sheep mind and wit. Orange pilled very soon. Yeah, I agree. I like Russell. He's one of the good ones from UK. Yeah, we tried to get him tried to get him over there. If you haven't already heard my idea for the Grand Ballroom in MCC, let's chat. I have not heard it. Yeah, no, I haven't heard it. You got to tell me, Tommy. I love the Grand Ballroom. Let me know. Sharp mind. No news is good news. This show runs every day. Not quite every day. I don't do Sundays. I did Sundays for a while. Wild Hustle. But there was a couple of times where it got canceled because of planned power outages on Sunday morning on the island I live in the winters. It's not an island thing. Was literally just my street because it's the main street. They had to do stuff and they would do it on Sundays. So there are about 2 or 3 weeks in a row in the winter where I stopped doing Sundays. And I started hanging out with my kids on the Sunday morning, and they were used before I did the show. I would hang out with them every morning. So it just turned back into a kids morning thing. I need one of, they get a little jealous, after the show, they'll be all over me and all that stuff. So Yeah, Sundays became kid, family, morning, and that's great. So we do it almost every day, Wild Hustle. We miss one day. So one thing is old. Yeah, okay, good, Johnny Rico, good. As I said, this show is my daily wake up call. Tommy, we love it, man. Tommy is the creator of my beautiful icon here, by the way, everyone. The Breakup 8-bit glory. Good morning, Breakup gang. Good morning, Matt. 1 BTC equals 1 BTC. Bitcoin Landia achieved. Indeed. Get your coins off the exchanges. We love that. Yeah, we love that. We love that. Yeah. Assalam. It's crazy to witness Fahrenheit 451 from the Canadian removing all them books. Yeah. Canada is a very stupid place, Muslim Bitcoiner. You got to just accept it. When's the NPC handbook coming out? I'm trying to release it in time for Amsterdam. I've been working on it a lot, actually. It's really funny. You're going to like it. You're going to like it. Abe Lincoln Vampire Hunter is a great movie. Yeah, I didn't hate the movie. Honestly, I didn't hate it. It's just the book was so good. It's just one of those weird cases. And it's true. It would have been cool as Satoshi Nakamoto Vampire Hunter. I had it like that at first. But the Russell Brand Vampire Hunter one is pretty good, right? It got turned into Russell Brand when I saw the image generated looked like Russell Brand. So this one is actual with Russell Brand prompted. So it's not the one that made me think of Russell Brand. There you go. Hodl on this day, everyone. Indeed, hodl on this day. All right, everyone. Did I miss anything? Oh yeah, I did see that. Yeah, you every now and then mention podcast. Your last. It's great to see a broken brain in full force. Yes, I did listen to that and was very interested in that, Defina, because I think Senk. I always have trouble with his name. I do think he's one of those people who can flip. I really do. I think he is one of the rare people like Bill Maher who you shouldn't give up on. Right now, I don't like a lot of the shit he's done in his life, and I don't agree with him on much. But somehow, I do believe he is one of those people who just wants a better world and thinks he's telling the truth. Now, I'm mind reading him, right? I don't know if I'm correct, but I watched a bit of that Michael Malice interview with him to find out where his broken brain was. And what I saw was someone who is inching closer to the truth. You know, again, I always leave people, especially in the Trump question, because of the bully factor that Trump brings, right? Trump is a bully. Let me never deny that, right? Trump is a 100% bully. I don't mind that. I embraced that he was a bully. I thought that's what was needed. But I get why. I always want to give people space who can't deal with Trump. I put him in that category. I put him in the category of people who are anti-bully, and so can't actually look at Trump properly. But beyond that, I think Senk is a guy who, I mean, he's attacking openly Biden for ratings, maybe, whatever. I don't want to mind read him. But when I see him starting to go on these podcasts that are unfriendly territory, right, that are not easy, you don't usually see people from the left do that. And to me, that shows what he's lacking in is perspective, not necessarily opinion, right? So I don't think he's one of these people. I don't think he's a mockingbird asset, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I could be wrong. I don't think he's a mockingbird asset. I think he's just someone who got stuff wrong and is on a wrong path. But I think he can come around. I guess all that to say is he's someone I predict will be a Bitcoiner before many others, right? I predict he will be that. Because look, there's a lot of people on the left, and I've said this before Bitcoin, right? There's most of what left-wing people want in their hearts for the world, I'm in agreement with, right? Most, not the stuff they've been brainwashed into wanting, but most of their goals, I'm fine with. Their problem is they don't understand human beings, and they think they can tell people and nag them to do that, right? It's not how it works. Satoshi understood how people were, and just created a system to embrace our selfishness. So a guy like Sink is just someone to me who makes the same mistake that a lot of people make in assuming humans are like selfless, and some humans are selfless, and if we just cultivate our selflessness, we're going to be a better society. It's just misguided. It's not. It's wrong, right? But it's a mistake many people make. So I don't think Sink is a brainwasher. I don't think he is a liar. I think he's wrong, and that's a different thing. So his brain is broken, right? So that's there. But he's one of the few people from that broken brain world who I do hold a little bit of hope for. And I thought Michael Malice was very gentle with him. And I think Michael Malice looked like he sees the same thing, that if you can get a defector, you'll be in the right realm. So I'm all for people engaging with Senk, and I love seeing Senk go on to more, sort of, it's Michael Malice. Don't call you can't call him a right wing person. He is an ANCAP to the core, right? So, yeah, I think it was a good interview, and Senk has some hope left, right? So that's what I see. Would love to see Bitcoiners debate Sam Sater. I don't know much about Sam Sater, Kapenta. It's Saturday. Good morning. Almost missed my daily brain expansion. Wishing all a great day. Thomas, you didn't miss it. We're right here. Happy Saturday, Thomas. All right, team. That's all I got for today. I got to get ready for the podcast. It'll be recorded. It's with the bow-tied people. That we love the bow-tied people. Huh? All right. Peace, everyone.